The sky over Midtown Manhattan was still dark when Bradley Harlan stepped out of the white town car, the kind his company always sent to escort him after late meetings. But tonight wasn't a meeting. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie stuffed into his jacket pocket, and the faint scent of Chloe Hartman's perfume clung to him like smoke. He didn't care. He never worried about getting caught, not with a wife like Madison Clark, the quiet, exhausted ER nurse who barely had time to sleep, let alone question where he spent his nights. Brad pushed into the lobby of his luxury high-rise, walking past the marble floors without looking at the doorman. His iPhone buzzed in his pocket, 3 missed calls from Maddie. He smirked. She was probably asking if he wanted breakfast when she got off her night shift. She always put him first, no matter how tired she was. The elevator hummed as it lifted him toward the penthouse. Brad checked his reflection in the mirrored walls, smoothing his hair. Chloe had fallen asleep on his chest at the Plaza Hotel just hours earlier, drunk on cocktails and the fantasy that he would leave his wife soon. He told her whatever she wanted to hear. She was 26 and easy to impress. Maddie was 31, and if he was brutally honest, no longer the woman who used to chase dreams. She chased bills now. She chased sleep. The elevator doors opened, and Brad froze. Yellow police tape crisscrossed the entrance to the penthouse. 2 officers stood outside his door, their radios crackling softly. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and cold morning air. One officer lifted his head. "Sir, you can't go in there." Brad blinked. "This is my home. What the hell is going on?" The older officer studied him. "Are you Bradley Harlan?" "Yes, obviously. We've been trying to reach you since last night." Brad almost laughed. "Last night I was—" He stopped himself. "Busy." The younger officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "Mr. Harlan, your vehicle was involved in a hit-and-run at approximately 2:14 a.m. Brad felt something cold slide down his spine. "That's impossible. My driver—" "There was no driver," the officer cut in. "Traffic cameras captured you leaving the driver's seat. We have footage." Brad's mouth went dry. His mind scrambled for excuses, alibis, anything, but all he could see was the dim street, the sudden thud he'd ignored, Chloe's panicked voice telling him to keep going. They were drunk. They didn't stop. He thought no one would ever know. And then, "Where's my wife?" Brad demanded. "Why isn't she here? Why is my place taped off?" The older officer stepped aside, revealing a clipboard with a familiar name. A witness filed a report. A witness who identified Bradley. A witness who connected the victim to Maddie. Brad's stomach dropped. He forced his legs forward. "What witness?" he whispered. The officer answered slowly. "Your wife, Mr. Harlan." Brad's world tilted because Maddie never should have known he was even there. Madison Clark had always believed that exhaustion was simply part of being a nurse, but lately, it felt like a second skin. After another 12-hour shift in the ER at Manhattan General Hospital, she stepped out into the cold morning air, the city lights flickering against the rising dawn. Her scrubs still smelled faintly of antiseptic and adrenaline, the scent that clung to every emergency she'd fought through. Tonight had been especially rough, 3 traumas back to back, 1 cardiac arrest, and a young woman who kept begging, "Please don't let me die." Maddie held her breath, remembering that moment. She had saved the girl. But it cost her another piece of herself, another hour of sleep she'd never get back, another crack in the foundation of a life she'd tried desperately to hold together. She pulled her phone from her pocket as she waited for the bus. 3 missed calls from Brad. Odd. He usually slept through the night, especially when she wasn't home. He never stayed up worrying about her. Not once. Maddie squinted at the screen, shivering as a breeze swept down the avenue. She typed a quick text. "Heading home. Everything okay?" No response. Her fingers were stiff with cold as she tucked the phone away. Maybe he'd already left for the gym. Maybe he'd stayed at a hotel after one of his late meetings. Or maybe she swallowed hard, maybe he was with someone else. It wasn't paranoia, it was pattern. For months, she had found small clues. A forgotten restaurant receipt tucked into his wallet, a perfume scent that didn't belong in their penthouse, a silk scarf in the back seat of his car. When she asked, Brad always had explanations. A client left it. "You're overthinking. You're tired, Maddie. You need rest." That last one always stung. He spoke to her like fatigue made her foolish. Like her instincts were the problem, not his behavior. And she tried hard to believe him. because she had married him during a time when he was gentle, attentive, grateful, when she believed they were building a future together, when she believed that having a child was just one doctor's appointment away. But after 2 years of trying with failed treatments, crushing medical bills, and Brad's growing impatience, she felt like she was breaking. Her bus arrived. She stepped inside, grabbed a seat near the window, and leaned her head against the glass. The city passed in streaks of yellow and blue. She closed her eyes, replaying her last conversation with Brad earlier that day. He'd been distant, annoyed, dismissive. She'd told him she might need to take fewer night shifts because her doctor warned about stress levels. Brad barely looked up from his MacBook. Stress is part of life, Maddie. Handle it. Handle it. Like she wasn't already drowning. When the bus pulled up in front of their building, Maddie stepped out and tightened her coat around her. The lobby guard gave her a sympathetic nod. He often saw her come home, looking half alive. She forced a smile and walked toward the elevator. But halfway there, she stopped. Police officers stood outside the elevator doors, talking quietly. Something in her chest tightened. She approached cautiously. "Hi. I live here. Is something wrong?" One of the officers glanced at her. "Are you Madison Clark?" "Yes." His expression softened in a way that made her heart leap into her throat. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "we may need you to come with us." Maddie froze. "Why?" The officer took a slow breath. "It's about your husband." Her pulse spiked because deep down, she already knew this was the moment everything would break. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing the gleaming marble hallway that led to the penthouse. Maddie shared with Brad a place that looked like a dream from the outside but felt like a cage from the inside. The building was one of those high-rise luxury towers in Midtown Manhattan, the kind with glass walls that reflected the skyline and hallways scented with expensive diffusers. People who lived here were supposed to have perfect lives, perfect marriages, perfect homes. But Maddie had long known that perfection was just another kind of lie. As she stepped out of the elevator with the officers, her gaze drifted to the floor-to-ceiling windows near the hallway's end. The first light of dawn spilled across the city, brushing the tops of skyscrapers with pale gold. It should have been calming. Instead, it felt like the city itself was holding its breath. "This way, ma'am," one officer said, guiding her past a row of framed abstract paintings Brad bought because every penthouse needs art. Maddie hated those paintings. They felt like the marriage expensive but empty. Her hands trembled slightly as they neared the penthouse door. Yellow police tape fluttered gently across it, an ugly contrast to the elegant silver handle she polished just 2 weeks ago. She swallowed hard. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why is my home a crime scene?" Both officers paused. The younger one, kind eyes, steady voice, spoke first. "Ma'am, earlier this morning, your husband's vehicle was identified, leaving the scene of a hit and run. We responded to the address linked to him. But Brad wasn't—" Maddie stopped. She didn't know where Brad was last night. She hadn't known for months. The older officer continued. "We attempted to make contact with Mr. Harlan, but it appears he wasn't home. We secured the residence per procedure. That's when we found your number listed as next of kin." Next of kin. The words hit her like a blow. She pressed a hand to her chest and tried to breathe. Inside the penthouse, everything was silent, too silent. Usually, she'd hear the faint hum of Brad's wine cooler or the gentle whoosh of the automatic blinds adjusting. But now, only her heartbeat echoed in her ears. When the officers lifted the tape and allowed her to step inside, the coldness of the space startled her. The penthouse was immaculate, always was, but today it felt sterile, like the world had drained all warmth from it. The expansive living room, with its white leather furniture and towering views of Manhattan, looked more like a museum than a home. Her sneakers squeaked softly on the marble, the sound echoing against high ceilings. In the corner stood the bar cart Brad adored, stocked with whiskey she never touched. Across from it, the glass dining table reflected the city lights. She remembered eating countless dinners alone at that table while Brad worked late. She had tried so hard to make this place feel like hers, adding a plant near the window, hanging a small framed photograph of her mother, but Brad took the plant away because it didn't fit the aesthetic. And the photo ended up in a drawer. This penthouse wasn't built for her. It was built for who Brad wanted the world to think he was. "Ma'am," the officer said softly, "we need to ask if you know where your husband was between 1 and 3 a.m. Maddie opened her mouth, then closed it. She didn't know. She never knew. The officer exchanged a glance with his partner, then lowered his voice. There's something else. The victim of the hit and run survived, but they identified the driver before losing consciousness. Is offer? Maddie blinked. Identified? Who? The officer hesitated. Your husband. The walls of the penthouse seemed to tilt because for the first time, Maddie realized this place wasn't just breaking her heart, it was about to expose every secret she'd been blind to. Bradley Harlan had always been the kind of man people noticed even before the money, before the penthouse, before the polished suits and curated charm. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a smile engineered to disarm, and a voice smooth enough to pass as sincerity. To the world, Brad was the picture of success. The self-made real estate mogul who climbed from nothing to owning half a dozen developments across Manhattan. But Maddie knew another version of him, one most people never saw. A man who equated kindness with weakness. A man who raised his voice when he felt small. A man who needed admiration like oxygen and despised anyone who didn't provide it. In their early years, he hid that side well, but success sharpened his arrogance. And by the time Maddie began noticing the changes, they weren't changes, they were revelations. While Maddie stood in the penthouse, trying to steady her breath, Brad himself was stepping out of the hallway elevator on another floor of the building, completely unaware that his wife was upstairs surrounded by police. He muttered under his breath, trying to brush the sleep out of his eyes. His shirt was wrinkled, his jaw rough with stubble. He didn't look like a CEO this morning, he looked like a man who'd run too far from his own consequences. And that was exactly who he was. Brad paused at a mirror hanging near the elevator bank. He ran a hand through his hair and gave himself the same confident smile he used during interviews. Behind that practiced grin, flashes from the night before flickered through his mind, Chloe's laughter echoing across the suite at the plaza, the taste of whiskey, the warmth of her hands sliding under his shirt, the way she whispered, "She'll never leave you?" Brad. Wives like that stay forever. He believed it. Why wouldn't he? Maddie always forgave him, always stayed, always bent. She was loyal to a fault, and Brad relied on that loyalty the way most people relied on gravity. But even gravity can fail when the ground disappears. He strode toward the stairwell. He didn't want the doorman or the neighbors seeing him in this state. Besides, he liked entering the penthouse through the side hallway. It felt private, controlled, like the world couldn't touch him there. Halfway up the stairs, Chloe's perfume ghosted through his mind again, soft, sweet, intoxicating. She was young, bright-eyed, hungry for the life he promised she could have. He liked how she looked at him. He liked how she made him feel powerful. Maddie used to look at him like that too. Before the night shifts, before the fertility appointments, before the exhaustion carved shadows under her eyes. He told himself she had changed. He never admitted he was the one who stopped choosing her. At the top of the staircase, Brad pulled out his phone. No new messages. Maddie must still be at work. Good. He'd shower before she came home. Pretend he'd been working late. Pretend everything was fine. Pretending was his strongest skill. He pushed open the stairwell door and stopped short. 2 officers stood outside his penthouse. For a moment, he didn't breathe. Then the arrogance kicked in. "What's going on?" Brad demanded as he approached, straightening his jacket. "Why are you outside my home?" The older officer stepped forward. "Mr. Harlan, we've been waiting for you. We need to ask you some questions about an incident earlier tonight." Brad's jaw tightened. This must be a mistake. But then he saw her. Maddie standing inside the penthouse, pale and trembling, her eyes searching his. And in that second, Brad realized this wasn't a mistake. This was consequence. And the look on Maddie's face told him that whatever he'd done last night, she wasn't going to save him this time. The officers stepped aside just enough for Brad to enter the penthouse. And suddenly, the air inside felt heavy, thicker than the tension already tightening Maddie's chest. She stood near the kitchen island, fingers curled around the edge like she needed the marble to keep her upright. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched, sharp as glass. Brad forced a smile, the kind he used at business galas when pretending to care. "Maddie, why are the police here? What's going on?" His voice carried that familiar tone, calm, confident, manipulative. The tone he used when he needed control. Maddie swallowed, her voice trembling. "They said our car was involved in a hit and run." Brad scoffed. That's ridiculous. Someone must have stolen. Brad, the older officer interjected. Traffic cameras recorded the license plate and recorded you exiting the driver's side. The footage is clear. Brad's jaw clenched. His eyes darted between the officers and Maddie, as if calculating how much charm he needed to get out of this. Maybe I was parked illegally. Maybe it's confused. Maddie shook her head. They also said the victim identified you. Silence dropped again, this time heavier, darker. Brad stiffened. The victim? Yes, the officer replied. They were conscious for a moment before collapsing. They gave your name. Maddie's heart hammered painfully as she stepped closer. Brad, were you drinking last night? He didn't answer. Were you driving? His silence was enough. One of the officers cleared his throat. Mrs. Clark, we'll need a statement from you later. But for now, we need Mr. Harlan to come with us for questioning. Brad's expression snapped into panic. He stepped forward, hands raised slightly. Hold on. I have rights. I'm not going anywhere until I call my lawyer. You'll have that opportunity at the station. No. Brad turned to Maddie, his voice tightening like a snare. Maddie, tell them you were with me. Say I was home. Say, don't, she whispered, the word a tremble of disbelief and heartbreak. Don't drag me into this. I have. Brad's face hardened. So you're just going to stand there? You think I'm the villain? You think I'm capable of this? Brad, she said quietly, I don't think it anymore. I know. The officers approached. Brad backed away, raising his voice. You can't just arrest me. You don't know who I am. I have a reputation. That word reputation hit Maddie like a slap. Because everything Brad ever cared about came down to that. Not people. Not consequences. Not her. Reputation. The older officer stepped forward. Bradley Harlan, you're being detained for questioning in connection with a hit-and-run incident under New York Penal Code. No, Brad barked, grabbing Maddie's wrist suddenly. She gasped at the force. Tell them, Maddie, if you love me, tell them. One officer immediately moved between them. Sir, let go of her. But Brad didn't. His grip tightened, anger flaring across his face. You're not doing this to me. You're my wife. You don't get to let them take me. And then, Maddie looked at him, tears gathering in her eyes. Not because she was scared for herself, but because she finally saw the truth. He wasn't desperate. He wasn't confused. He was guilty. The officer pulled Brad back. Brad stumbled, shouting curses at them, at Maddie, at the entire situation. His voice echoed through the penthouse, once a symbol of power, now a hollow chamber, revealing every crack in his facade. As they escorted him out, Brad twisted toward her one last time. This isn't over, Maddie. You'll regret this. You'll regret everything. The elevator doors slammed shut, and in the ringing silence that followed, Maddie's knees buckled. She sank onto the cold marble floor, breath shaking, tears slipping down her cheeks. Not because Brad was gone, but because deep inside, she knew the night wasn't done unraveling. Something worse was coming, and she could feel it closing in. The silence after Brad's arrest didn't feel like peace. It felt like the stillness before a storm. Maddie stayed on the marble floor longer than she realized, her palms flat against the cold surface, tears falling in slow, stunned drops. The penthouse around her, once a monument to Brad's ego, felt cavernous, echoing with every breath she took. She wiped her face, stood on unsteady legs, and moved toward the living room windows. The city stretched out beneath her. Yellow taxis weaving through morning traffic, steam rising from the subway grates, the skyline piercing the pale dawn. New York looked alive, indifferent, relentless. Her life, however, was hanging by a single fraying thread. Her phone vibrated. She expected Jordan. He always checked on her after long shifts. But instead, the screen displayed Manhattan General Hospital, admin office. Her stomach tightened. She answered quickly. Hello? This is Madison Clark. Maddie, it's Linda, came her supervisor's strained voice. We need you to come in today. Maddie blinked. Is something wrong? A pause. Too long. Maddie, it's about the hit-and-run victim. Her heart stuttered. They said he survived. Is he? He's in critical condition. He coded twice since being brought in, Linda said softly. He's fighting, but we're not sure he'll make it. Maddie closed her eyes, dread twisting in her stomach. Do you know who he is? A patient we've treated before. Homeless. He sometimes slept outside the ER entrance. You've given him blankets." Linda's voice broke slightly. "Maddie, he asked for you before he passed out the last time." Her throat tightened. She remembered him quiet, polite, grateful for any kindness. She'd once given him her extra bagel during a night shift. He'd told her. She reminded him of his daughter. And Brad had hit him, left him in the street, drove away. Her knees threatened to buckle again. "Linda, did he say anything else? Did he identify?" "Yes," Linda whispered. "He did." A cold wave washed over her. "He said your husband's name, Maddie." The world spun. She griped the counter to steady herself. "I'll come to the hospital." "Maddie, you should also know something else," Linda added carefully. "There are reporters outside. They know your name." Someone leaked the connection. Maddie froze. "What? I haven't said anything." "Is a sipstos. Nobody thinks you did." A heavy sigh. "But Brad's company is high profile. This is already turning into a scandal. You might want to enter through the back entrance." Her voice felt small. "Okay, thank you." She hung up and pressed her hands to her face. Reporters. Scandal. Her name being dragged through the public eye for something she didn't do, something she didn't even know about. Brad had always sworn his world would never touch hers. But now it was collapsing onto her like a falling building. Panic tightened her chest. She walked to the bedroom, pulling open drawers for fresh clothes, but even that felt wrong. The room smelled faintly of Brad's cologne, and the sight of their unmade bed made her stomach twist. She grabbed a sweater, jeans, and her hospital shoes. As she changed, her tears returned, not loud, but quiet, desperate, betrayed. Everything was crumbling. Her marriage, her safety, her career, her anonymity. She grabbed her coat and reached for the door, and her phone buzzed again. A text message. From an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. "You should have told the cops he was with you. Women like you don't survive scandals like this." Maddie's blood ran cold. Chloe. It had to be Chloe. Her fingers trembled around the phone as she backed away from the door. This wasn't just a legal nightmare anymore. Someone was watching. Someone was threatening. Someone wanted her quiet. And deep in her chest, a chilling realization settled. Brad wasn't her only problem. The hospital's back entrance was usually quiet, used mostly by staff slipping out for lunch or paramedics avoiding the main crowd. But today, as Maddie stepped out of the cab and approached the door, her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it over the city noise. She kept her hood up to avoid cameras, not that it helped much. Even from a distance, she saw reporters crowding the street, microphones raised, lenses pointed like weapons. "Madison Clark, is it true your husband fled the scene? Did you shield him from the police? Are you filing for divorce?" Their voices shattered the morning like breaking glass. Maddie kept her head down, ignoring them as she slipped inside. The metal door clicked shut behind her, but the question still echoed in her mind. Inside the staff hallway, she let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A nurse passing by gave her a sympathetic look. "Hang in there, Maddie," she whispered. If only it were that easy. She hurried toward the ICU, where Linda had told her the hit-and-run victim, George, the quiet homeless man she'd helped before, was being treated. Everything inside her felt tight. She wasn't ready for this. But she owed him her presence. He had remembered her name through pain and shock. That meant something. As she reached the ICU doors, Jordan Pierce stepped out of a patient room. His scrubs were splattered with antiseptic, and his expression was heavy with exhaustion. When his eyes landed on Maddie, concern swept across his face. "Madison," he said softly, stepping closer. "I was going to call you." Her breath hitched. Is he still alive?" Jordan hesitated just long enough to confirm her worst fear. "He's on life support. We're doing everything we can." A sharp ache cut through her chest. She lowered her head, tears stinging her eyes. "I should have been here sooner," she whispered. "No," Jordan said firmly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "This isn't your fault." But guilt wrapped around her anyway. If she'd known where Brad was, if she'd known what he was doing, maybe she could have stopped him. Maybe George wouldn't be fighting for his life. Then Jordan's voice softened even further. "Maddie, there's something else." She looked up, dread creeping in. "What?" Before George lost consciousness in the ER, he said he saw the driver's face clearly. And he said the driver wasn't alone. Maddie blinked. Not alone? Jordan nodded. He said there was a woman in the passenger seat. Her heart dropped. Chloe. It had to be. Chloe had been there. She saw everything. She didn't stop him. And she threatened Maddie when she didn't lie to the police. But Jordan wasn't done. He also said something else, he continued quietly. Something about the woman yelling at the driver to keep going, that she told him to just drive. A chill crawled up Maddie's spine. Chloe hadn't just been present. She urged Brad to flee. Jordan stepped closer. Maddie, they're both responsible, not just Brad. Her breath trembled. The police don't know that. Not yet, Jordan said carefully, but his blood work will come back. And we pulled the traffic camera footage. You need to know this isn't going away quietly. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. She almost didn't want to look, but she did. You think Brad's bad? You have no idea what you're dealing with. Her hands shook. Jordan saw her expression change. Are you okay? What is it? Maddie swallowed hard. Someone is threatening me. Who? He asked sharply. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. I think Chloe's watching me. I think she knows everything, and I think she's not done. Jordan's jaw tightened. Then you're not going anywhere alone. And in that moment, Maddie realized Brad's scandal wasn't the real danger. The real danger was the woman who had nothing to lose and every reason to silence her. The ICU hallway felt colder now, as if the walls themselves could sense danger tightening around Maddie. She tried to focus on steady breaths, but her chest kept tightening, her thoughts swirling with the weight of everything she had just learned. Brad had lied. Chloe had been in the car. George was fighting for his life. And someone, almost certainly Chloe, was threatening her. Jordan's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Come with me, he said gently. Somewhere we can talk. He led her into a small conference room near the ICU. The blinds were half drawn, letting thin stripes of morning light fall across the table. Maddie sank into a chair, her hands trembling in her lap. Jordan closed the door, then pulled the seat beside her. You're in danger, he said plainly, but not unkindly. And whether you realize it or not, you've been in danger for longer than just last night. Maddie stared at him, confused. What do you mean? He hesitated, visibly choosing his words. You know I never wanted to interfere in your marriage, he began. But, Maddie, people talk, especially in a place like this. Her breath hitched. People talk about what? Jordan fixed his worried gaze on her. About Brad. About the way he treats you. About the arguments he's had in public with investors. About deals he forced through using questionable methods. Her stomach twisted. Jordan continued, and this is important. Chloe Hartman didn't start as Brad's mistress. And Wade. Maddie blinked rapidly. What are you talking about? She started as his liability. The words sat heavy in the air. Jordan leaned forward. Months ago, Brad and Chloe were seen at a property opening downtown, long before she joined his company. Someone reported an altercation between them. Brad brushed it off as a misunderstanding, but he paused. Some staff thought Chloe was involved in more than just PR. Maddie's pulse raced. Meaning? Jordan exhaled. Meaning, Brad may have been involved in financial fraud, and Chloe may have been the person he used to get information. Maddie stared at him, stunned. He used her? Maybe at first, Jordan said. But somewhere along the line, the power shifted. Chloe got leverage, and Brad became desperate. Her breath trembled. Leverage how? Jordan opened a folder on the table, something he must have grabbed from the nurse's station. Inside was an anonymized police report summary. George, he said softly, isn't just a random victim. Maddie's heart stopped. Jordan continued. George used to do small jobs around some of Brad's development sites, mostly sweeping, moving supplies, just to earn enough for a meal. A few months ago, he witnessed a heated argument between Brad and a contractor. The kind of argument where Brad may have threatened someone. Maddie covered her mouth. And George told someone, Jordan added. He told a social worker that Brad scared him that he'd seen something he wasn't supposed to see. Her head spun. So you're saying the hit and run wasn't an accident? Jordan didn't answer immediately. He didn't have to. Maddie felt the room closing in, her throat tightening. No, Brad wouldn't, he couldn't. Jordan looked at her with heartbreaking gentleness. Maddie, the man you married isn't the man standing in that police station right now. Tears welled in her eyes. Everything she thought she knew, every excuse she ever made for Brad was unraveling. Then Jordan's expression shifted, a darker seriousness settling in. And there's more. Chloe has been making threats to at least 2 other women connected to Brad. He's not the only one she's trying to silence. Maddie's voice cracked. Why me? Jordan didn't look away. Because you're the one person she can't control. And the one person who can destroy everything she's built with him. Is that? Her phone buzzed again. Another message. This time. You think Brad's your biggest problem? I warned you. Stop talking or I'll make sure you never talk again. Jordan saw her face pale and took the phone gently from her hand. Maddie, he said, voice low and steady, you're not dealing with a mistress. He lifted his eyes to hers. You're dealing with someone dangerous. And for the first time, Maddie realized she wasn't caught between Brad and a scandal. She was caught between Brad and a woman who had nothing to lose. Maddie sat frozen in the conference room, the glow of the threatening text still lingering in her mind like a burn. The walls felt too close, the air too thin. She had survived countless emergencies in the ER, gunshot wounds, heart attacks, car crashes, but nothing had ever terrified her like this. Not because of danger itself, but because the danger was personal, calculated. Watching her, Jordan placed her phone gently on the table. You're not safe, Maddie, he said quietly. Chloe isn't just reacting emotionally, she's covering her tracks. Maddie wrapped her arms around herself. But why involve me? I never confronted her. I never threatened her. Jordan hesitated. You don't have to. She sees you as the obstacle standing between her and Brad's assets, his reputation, his power. If Brad goes down alone, she loses everything. But if she can make it look like you're hysterical, unstable, or complicit, she has leverage. A cold shiver ran through Maddie. She's trying to set me up, or shut you down, Jordan said. Either way, this is escalating. Before Maddie could respond, the conference room door cracked open. Linda slipped inside, her face drawn with worry. Maddie, honey, she whispered, you need to see this. She held out a tablet. On the screen was a breaking news headline from a major New York outlet. CEO Bradley Harlan, arrested for hit-and-run sources, claim wife's testimony could seal his fate. Below it, a smaller line. Anonymous insider suggests wife may have known about husband's crime. Maddie's heart plummeted. They're trying to drag me into this, she whispered. They're painting me as part of it. Linda nodded grimly. Someone leaked it. And they didn't leak it to help you. Jordan clenched his jaw. Chloe. Maddie's mind raced. She imagined Chloe sitting somewhere smug, perfectly manicured fingers tapping out lies. Brad, meanwhile, was probably spinning a narrative of his own, because when backed into a corner, he always turned on someone else. And Maddie had been his favored scapegoat for years. Linda placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. The press is waiting outside, all exits now. We'll move you through the staff tunnels and get you to the social workers' wing. Fewer eyes there. And Strongwell. But Maddie shook her head slowly. No, I need to see him. Jordan's eyes widened. Maddie, why? Because if he's talking to police, he might be using my name, he might be lying. Her voice shook, and I need to hear it from him before his lies become reality. Jordan stood. Then I'm going with you. No, she said gently. I need him to talk. He won't if you're there. Reluctantly, he stepped back, but worry shadowed his features. If he says anything threatening, you walk out immediately. I will. Linda led her through a series of back corridors, past storage rooms, break rooms, a linen closet that smelled like bleach, until they reached the hospital's secured interview rooms. A police officer waited outside. He's inside, the officer said. He asked to speak with you. Of course he did. Maddie inhaled deeply, bracing herself. Then she opened the door. Brad sat at a metal table, hands cuffed, eyes wild with desperation. When he saw her, he leaned forward. Maddie, he breathed. Thank God. You have to help me. She stood still, arms crossed. Brad swallowed hard. Look, the cops are confused. They're saying things that aren't true. And that homeless guy, he's wrong. He didn't see anything. Maddie's voice was steady. Brad, stop. His expression morphed from panic to irritation. I just need you to tell them I wasn't driving. You can save me. Save you? She echoed quietly. Yes. He leaned closer. We're in this together. No, she said, voice cracking. We're not. His jaw hardened. If you don't help me, everything will come out, everything. The deals, the money, the fights. You'll be dragged into it, Maddie. You'll look like you knew all along." Her breath hitched. "Is that a threat?" "It's reality," he snapped. She stared at him, really stared, and saw the truth. Brad wasn't scared he'd ruined someone's life. He was scared he'd lose his own. And then he added, voice low, "You think I'm your problem? Chloe's the one you should fear." Maddie's blood ran cold. "Why?" she whispered. Brad leaned back, eyes dark and defeated. "Because she has proof of everything, and she's not afraid to use it." And in that moment, Maddie realized Brad wasn't warning her, he was terrified of the woman he'd let into his life. A woman now far more dangerous than him. Maddie stood frozen in the interview room, Brad's last words echoing inside her skull like gunshots. She has proof of everything. Proof of what? What had Brad done that was so catastrophic he feared the very woman he'd betrayed Maddie with? Brad watched her with frantic eyes, breathing hard, like he was drowning, and she was the last lifeline. "Maddie, listen to me," he pleaded. "Chloe isn't who you think. She's been collecting things. Documents, messages. She has recordings of conversations I never agreed to. She said she'd release them if I leave her." Maddie's stomach twisted painfully. "Recordings of what?" Brad hesitated. His eyes flickered to the officers outside the glass. "I can't say it here." The cowardice in that sentence was deafening. "You're asking me to protect you," Maddie whispered. "From the consequences you created." He clenched his fists. "I'm asking you to protect yourself. If she releases everything, your name will get dragged with mine. The investors know you helped me early on. You signed documents. Maddie, you handled paperwork when I was starting out. She could twist that and make you look complicit." Her heart thudded. Years ago, before the marriage soured, Brad had begged her to help with administrative tasks for his first development project. At the time, she'd been naive, believing she was supporting her husband. He'd assured her it was simple, legal, harmless. What if it wasn't? "What did you have me sign, Brad?" she whispered. He closed his eyes. "It wasn't illegal at first. But then Chloe found things. She started using them. She said she'd bury me if I ever crossed her." Maddie stared at him, horror creeping through every bone. Brad wasn't the mastermind. He was the puppet. And Chloe was holding the strings. Before Maddie could respond, the door opened and the officer stepped inside. "Time's up." Brad lunged forward. "Maddie, don't leave. She's going to come after you. If George survives, if he talks, she'll take you down along with me." That was it. The moment Maddie's fear turned into anger. She straightened, stepping back from Brad. "No, Brad, she won't take me down. Because unlike you, I didn't break laws. I didn't lie. I didn't hurt anyone." He banged his cuffed hands on the table. "You don't understand." She looked at him, really looked, and finally saw the man he'd become. Desperate, reckless, addicted to power, terrified of losing everything he'd built through deceit. "I understand perfectly," she said. "You let her in, and now she owns you." The officer escorted her out, but Brad's final scream followed her down the hall. "Maddie, if she comes for me, she'll come for you too." She stepped into the hallway, her legs weak beneath her. Jordan was waiting just outside, arms crossed, concern etched across his features. "You were gone longer than I expected," he said, voice tight. "Are you all right?" "No," Maddie whispered. "Jordan, Brad wasn't driving alone. Chloe pushed him to flee, and she has evidence, documents, recordings, things Brad made me sign years ago. She's holding all of it." Jordan's expression darkened. "Then it's time to stop reacting and start protecting yourself." She swallowed hard. "How?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a USB drive. "Weeks ago, something odd happened. One of the IT guys at the hospital flagged a phone call Brad made to Chloe from a restricted number. It accidentally got routed through the hospital's network. He asked me what to do with it. I told him to save it." Maddie's breath caught. "Jordan, what's on it?" His eyes met hers. A recording of Chloe threatening to expose Brad unless he paid her. And another of Brad admitting he falsified documents using your name. Her heart dropped. She felt faint. "They used my signature." Jordan nodded slowly. "But now you have something too. Something that proves you were a pawn, not a partner." Maddie stared at the USB drive trembling in her hands. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. This was a war. And she had just been handed the first weapon. But then Jordan lowered his voice. "Maddie, Chloe's not going to sit still once she realizes Brad talked. Be careful, she's dangerous." Maddie exhaled shakily, closing her fingers around the USB. "I know," she whispered, because the real fight hadn't even begun. Maddie followed Jordan down the hallway, the USB still clutched in her trembling hand. Every step felt like she was wading deeper into a nightmare she didn't remember entering. The hospital bustle continued around them, nurses calling orders, stretchers rolling by, machines beeping, but to Maddie, it all sounded distant, muffled, drowned beneath the rising thunder in her chest. Jordan guided her into a small office near the administrative wing. He shut the door gently, then turned to face her with that steady, doctor's calm she'd always admired. "Sit," he said softly. She sank into the chair. Her fingers were still wrapped around the USB like it was the only solid thing left in her world. Jordan knelt down so he was eye level with her. "Maddie, you're shaking." She let out a broken laugh. "Of course I'm shaking. My husband is arrested. My name is on the news. Chloe is threatening me. And now there's proof. Brad used my signature for whatever illegal deal he was hiding." Jordan's brow furrowed. "We'll get ahead of this. You are not alone. If you won, Tom, I teeps too." The way he said, we hit something deep inside her. It had been so long since anyone stood beside her without conditions. Brad never had. Chloe certainly never would. But Jordan, he had always been steady, present, quietly protective, even when she didn't realize she needed protection. "First thing we do," Jordan continued, "is contact someone who can help you legally." Maddie's voice was small. "A lawyer? A good one. Someone who knows how to deal with people like Brad and women like Chloe. I can friends of 17. I can stand a D." He pulled out his phone and typed quickly, "I'm calling Evelyn Brooks." Maddie blinked. "Evelyn? The hospital counsel?" Jordan nodded. "You saved her husband last year. She hasn't forgotten." Minutes later, the office door opened and in stepped Evelyn Brooks, stylish, composed, and sharp-eyed, a woman who moved like she saw through lies before they were spoken. "Madison," she greeted warmly, though concern shadowed her expression. "Jordan told me enough to know you're in trouble. Sit up straight, dear. When the world comes for you, posture matters." A shaky smile tugged at Maddie's lips. Evelyn always had this unexpected blend of sternness and motherly warmth. Evelyn took the USB from her hand and held it up. "Is this what I think it is?" "Yes," Jordan said. Audio of Chloe blackmailing Brad, and Brad admitting he falsified documents using Maddie's name. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. "Then you, my dear, have leverage." Maddie shook her head. "I don't want leverage. I want the truth." "You'll get both," Evelyn replied crisply. "But you need to understand something. Chloe's behavior, the texts, the threats, the pressure, suggests she's escalating. People like her don't threaten unless they're afraid. And fear makes unstable people dangerous." Maddie swallowed. "I already feel like I'm being hunted." "You are," Evelyn said plainly. Brad and Chloe built a world of lies. The moment it cracked, they both looked for someone to blame. And the easiest target is the one with the quietest voice. Maddie looked away, hot tears stinging her eyes. "I didn't ask for any of this." Evelyn softened. "Nobody asks for betrayal, but some of us survive it stronger." She took a seat across from Maddie, opening her laptop. "I'm going to file paperwork immediately that legally separates you from Brad's assets and protects you from any charges. We'll also give the USB to the police at the right moment for maximum impact." Maddie blinked. "Maximum impact?" Evelyn smiled thinly. "Brad and Chloe wanted a war. They forgot you have an army." Jordan's hand brushed Maddie's shoulder gently. "You're not fighting alone anymore." Maddie inhaled shakily. For the first time since the nightmare began, she felt something flicker inside her. Not fear, not helplessness, something stronger. Hope. Evelyn stood. "But Madison, you must be prepared. When cornered, Chloe won't hold back. She'll try to ruin you before you can ruin her." Maddie met Evelyn's gaze. "I'm not afraid of her anymore." Evelyn nodded approvingly. "Good. Because the next move is hers." Just then, Maddie's phone buzzed again. A new message. Her breath caught as she read it. "You think lawyers will save you? Cute. You'll be gone before they can even try." Jordan saw her face pale. "What is it?" Maddie looked up, voice barely a whisper. "She knows I'm not alone, and she's still coming." One. End quote. And in that moment, Maddie realized the real battle was no longer legal, it was survival. The lights in Evelyn's office buzzed faintly overhead as Maddie stared at the threatening message glowing on her phone screen. Her heart thudded like a warning drum. How did Chloe know she was with a lawyer? How did she know Maddie wasn't alone? Jordan leaned closer, worry etched deep into his features. Maddie, this isn't normal. She's tracking you somehow. Importance, and best of it, and dollars. Evelyn's fingers paused over her laptop keyboard. Give me the phone. Maddie handed it over with trembling hands. Evelyn turned the device over carefully, inspecting the case, then the camera, then the ports. It's clean, Evelyn said. No obvious trackers, but threats don't come from guesswork. Chloe knows where you are. And how? Maddie whispered. Evelyn looked up sharply. Did Brad ever link your phone to any of his company servers? Or have access to your cloud backups? Maddie felt a slow, sickening realization twist in her gut. Yes. He said it was easier to sync our schedules when he was traveling. Jordan swore under his breath. She's inside your data. Evelyn nodded grimly. She probably has location access, and Brad probably never revoked her privileges once she got into his life. Maddie swallowed hard. So she's watching me, every move I make, and... Evelyn stood decisively. Then, the first step is cutting her off. Give me 5 minutes. She stepped into the hallway with the phone, already dialing a number. Maddie watched her leave, then pulled her knees up to her chest, feeling the weight of fear press down again. Jordan moved his chair closer. You're safe with us. I don't feel safe, Maddie murmured. Chloe has everything, my data, my name, my husband's secrets. She's not scared to use any of it. Den dangers of communism. Jordan's hand hovered near hers, not touching, but close enough to anchor her. Maddie, listen to me. She's acting like someone losing control, not gaining it. Maddie shook her head. She feels like she's everywhere. Jordan's voice softened. And that's exactly what people do when they're desperate. They try to seem bigger than they are. Before Maddie could respond, Evelyn burst back into the room, eyes sharp. I've disabled your phone remotely through the carrier, she said. Location services blocked. Cloud access revoked. Chloe can't trace you anymore. A shaky breath escaped Maddie's lips. Thank you. But, Evelyn added, that won't stop her from escalating. People like her don't quit, they lash out. As if summoned by the words, Jordan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened instantly. What is it? Maddie asked. Jordan hesitated. You're not going to like this. He turned the screen toward her. A headline, posted seconds ago. On a major gossip site, ER nurse Madison Clark under investigation for possible role in husband's hit and run. Maddie's stomach dropped. No, that's not true. I haven't even been questioned. Jordan shook his head. It's a plant. Chloe leaked it. Evelyn slammed her laptop shut. We're moving now. Madison, you cannot stay in the hospital. You cannot go home. And you cannot leave alone. Maddie stared at her. Where am I supposed to go? To someone who can protect you, Evelyn said. Someone not afraid of Brad or Chloe. Jordan understood immediately. Samuel Grant. Maddie blinked. Why him? Evelyn pulled on her coat. Because Brad burned him once. And men like Grant don't forget debts or betrayals. Jordan stood, placing a supportive hand on Maddie's back. Grant owes you more than you know, and he's not the type to let a predator run loose. But Maddie hesitated. What if Chloe finds me there? Evelyn's eyes glinted. Let her try. Grant has security that makes the Secret Service look sloppy. Jordan gently lifted Maddie to her feet. Come on, I'll take you to him. As they stepped toward the door, Maddie's phone, now inert, buzzed one last time from a stray network ghost. A final text appeared on the darkening screen just before the carrier shut it off completely. Running won't save you. I always finish what I start. Diva noting. Maddie felt icy terror grip her spine, but she straightened, drawing breath. For the first time, she wasn't running alone. And finally, she was ready to fight back. The ride to Samuel Grant's estate felt unreal, like Maddie had stepped out of her own life and into someone else's. The tinted windows of Jordan's car blurred the passing streets of Manhattan until they became streaks of gray and gold. She hugged her arms tight around herself, trying to stop the trembling, but the fear had settled deep in her bones. Jordan drove, his jaw clenched, his eyes scanning every mirror. No one followed, but he checked anyway, constantly. "You're safe," he murmured without looking at her. She nodded, though she didn't feel it. "Chloe won't stop. She won't let this go." "No," Jordan admitted. "She won't." His voice softened. "But Grant will know how to handle her." Do file. The city thinned as they reached the outskirts, where manicured lawns replaced crowded sidewalks. The Grant estate rose behind tall iron gates, guarded by security cameras and a uniformed team who moved with military precision. The gates opened before they even stopped. Jordan glanced at Maddie. Evelyn must have called ahead. They drove along a winding stone path until a modern glass and wood mansion appeared, framed by towering pines. It didn't look like wealth, it looked like power wearing silk. When the car stopped, the front door opened and Samuel Grant stepped out. He was older, silver hair, measured steps, but there was nothing fragile about him. His presence carried weight, the kind that quieted arguments and ended careers. When his eyes landed on Maddie, a flicker of concern softened his stern expression. "Madison Clark," he said, approaching, "you look like you've been through hell." She let out a shaky breath. "That's one word for it." Jordan helped her out of the car. Grant extended a hand, steady and warm. "Come inside. We'll talk where no one can reach you." Inside, the house was quiet, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a still lake, soft lighting, polished oak floors. A fire burned low in the hearth despite the mild weather. Grant gestured for them to sit. As soon as Maddie settled onto the leather sofa, he lowered himself into a chair across from her. "I heard what happened," he said. "Brad's arrest, the media leak, Chloe Hartman's threats." His gaze sharpened. "And I heard she's targeting you." Maddie swallowed. "Why me?" "Because you're the one thing she can't predict," Grant said simply. "You're honest. And Brad," he paused, "Brad fears you more than he fears her, because you know the man he used to be." Her eyes stung. "The man he used to be doesn't exist anymore." "No," Grant agreed, "he doesn't." Jordan leaned forward. "We need protection for Maddie. Not just legal. Physical. Chloe is escalating." Grant nodded once. "Done." He snapped his fingers. A tall woman, in black tactical attire, appeared almost instantly. "This is Marissa," Grant said. "Former Secret Service. She'll be your personal security until this is over." Maddie blinked in disbelief. I don't need." "Yes," Grant said firmly, "you do." Marissa inclined her head. "I don't leave your side unless you tell me to. And no one gets within 10 feet of you without me knowing." "In Wanachese." Maddie exhaled shakily. "Thank you." Grant stood, walked to the bar cart, and poured her a glass of water. "Now, tell me everything." Maddie recounted everything: Brad, Chloe, the hit and run, the messages, the recordings. Jordan added details where necessary. Grant listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When they finished, he set the glass down with a decisive click. "Chloe Hartman is a bigger problem than Brad," he said. "Brad is selfish, but Chloe, she's strategic. If you don't approach." Maddie shivered. "She said she always finishes what she starts." Grant's eyes narrowed. "And that's exactly what makes her dangerous. But she's made mistakes." Jordan frowned. "What mistakes?" Grant leaned in slightly. "She thinks fear will silence Maddie. She doesn't realize fear has already turned into resolve." Maddie blinked. "Resolve?" Grant nodded. "Because now that you're standing up, she's exposed." Before Maddie could respond, Marissa's voice cut in sharply from the entryway. "Mr. Grant, we have a problem." Grant turned. "What is it?" Marissa held up a tablet with a live security feed. A car had stopped at the edge of Grant's private road. Engine running. Lights off. No one getting out. Maddie's breath caught. Jordan leaned over the tablet. "Is that?" But Marissa answered before he could finish. "Yes," she said grimly. "The plate matches Chloe Hartman's vehicle." Maddie's blood turned to ice. Chloe had found her. For a long moment, no one breathed. The image on Marissa's tablet showed the car idling at the edge of Grant's private drive, motionless, predatory, like a wolf watching the door of a sheepfold. Maddie felt a cold slice of fear cut through her chest. "Are you sure it's her?" she whispered. Marissa zoomed in, enhancing the outline. "Same plate, same make, same dent on the bumper from that parking garage incident last month. It's her." Jordan swore under his breath. Grant straightened, his expression tightening into something carved from stone. "She's testing us," he said, "seeing if she can rattle Madison." Well, it's working, Maddie whispered, hands trembling. Marissa placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Do not panic. She's not getting near you. The gates are locked. We monitor every inch of the property. If she steps foot off that road, she'll be in cuffs before she touches grass. But Chloe wasn't leaving the car. She wanted to be seen. Jordan stepped forward, anger flickering through his usually calm eyes. She's bold enough to show up here? On Grant's property? Grant exhaled slowly. Boldness is often a mask for desperation, but we don't take chances. He walked toward the wall panel and pressed a button. The estate lights brightened outside, illuminating the driveway like a stage. The security cameras reset, adjusting angles for maximum coverage. Chloe's car came into clearer view. Still, no movement. Maddie, Grant said calmly, come here. She hesitated, but followed him to the window overlooking the long private road. From this vantage point, the car was a tiny dark shape beneath the trees, but undeniably there, engine humming, waiting. Grant folded his arms. Let me tell you something about people who threaten others. When you shine a light on them, they usually scatter. But Chloe wasn't scattering. She wasn't moving at all. What does she want? Maddie whispered. Jordan stepped beside her. Control, fear, reaction. Or, Evelyn said from the doorway, having just arrived after Grant summoned her, she's trying to provoke Maddie into contacting her. That would give Chloe a reason to spin the narrative again. Maddie felt her stomach twist. What do we do? Evelyn walked closer, her heels sharp against the wood floor. We give her silence. That's what unstable people hate most. Grant nodded toward Marissa. Take a team. Approach slowly. If she steps out, detain her. If she drives off, follow from a distance. Marissa nodded once and disappeared down the hall. Maddie watched the screen as two guards approached the vehicle. Their flashlights created bouncing halos of light. One tapped the window. No response. The guard tapped again, louder. Still nothing. The second guard stepped closer, peered inside, and stiffened. What's happening? Maddie whispered, voice cracking. Marissa's voice crackled through the tablet audio feed. Sir, the vehicle is empty. Empty. Maddie felt the room tilt. That's impossible, Jordan murmured. We saw it pull in. Grant's eyes narrowed. Check the perimeter. She could be on foot. Guards spread out across the grounds. Flashlights swept the trees and pathways. Nothing. Evelyn pressed a hand to her forehead. She's taunting you. She wants you afraid. She wants you off balance. Dawn raid. Suddenly, Maddie's phone, now replaced with a temporary device, buzzed on the table. She stared at it in dread. Jordan moved to grab it, but Maddie beat him to it, lifting it with a shaking hand. Unknown number. One new message. You're not as safe as he thinks you are. Maddie's breath caught. She's close. She's watching. Jordan stepped closer. We'll find her. Don't let her win. Grant took the phone gently from Maddie and studied the message. This isn't fear speaking, he said calmly. It's arrogance. She's slipping. Threats get sloppy when people lose control. But she's here, Maddie whispered. Somewhere. Before anyone could respond, Marissa stormed back into the room, her tone sharp. We found footprints, she said. Fresh ones, leading toward the lake. Maddie's pulse spiked. Marissa added, and something else. She opened her hand. Inside was a single object. A lipstick, deep crimson. The same shade Chloe wore the night Brad brought her to that gala. Maddie's breath stopped. Chloe had been on the property. Close enough to leave calling cards. Close enough to watch. And the message was unmistakable. Chloe wasn't running. She was hunting. The moment Marissa dropped the crimson lipstick into Grant's hand, the entire room felt colder. Maddie stared at the small tube, her breath catching in her throat. It wasn't just a message, it was a promise. A warning. A declaration that Chloe Hartman was no longer hiding in shadows. She was walking openly, confidently, daring them to stop her. Grant's jaw tightened. Marissa, double the perimeter. No one enters or leaves without my say. Yes, sir. She vanished like smoke. Jordan turned to Maddie, voice urgent. She's escalating. This isn't just intimidation anymore. She wants a confrontation. Maddie swallowed hard. But why me? What does she gain by coming after me in person? Evelyn answered before Jordan could. Because Chloe's empire is built on secrets Brad gave her. If Brad loses control, so does she. And you? Maddie, you're the variable she can't control. The one woman who could destroy everything she clawed together. Maddie pressed her palms to her eyes. I didn't ask for any of this. No one asks to be targeted by a desperate woman, Evelyn said gently. But we respond. We fight back. End quote. They more serve. Grant cleared his throat. And tonight, we change the game. They all looked at him. Grant stepped toward the center of the room, his posture commanding. I've spent decades dealing with liars, blackmailers, and corporate snakes. Chloe Hartman thinks she invented manipulation. She hasn't met real power yet. Jordan frowned. What are you planning? Grant nodded toward the table. We turn her own tactics against her. But first, Madison needs to see something. To Degat. He picked up a remote and clicked it. A large monitor lowered from the ceiling. Security footage appeared grainy night vision of Grant's grounds. At first, it showed nothing. Then movement. A slim figure darted between the trees, stopping to glance back. Even in shadows, the body language was unmistakable. Confident, manic, unhinged. The figure crouched near the lake, placed something by the water, then vanished back into darkness. Maddie shivered. That's her. Grant paused the video. She is unstable, impulsive, and dangerous, which means she will make mistakes, and we will capitalize on every single one. He stepped closer to Maddie. But you are the key. Maddie blinked. Me? Yes. Grant's voice softened, though his eyes stayed sharp. Chloe wants you rattled. She wants you terrified. But if you don't react, not the way she expects you, take her power away. Jordan gently touched Maddie's shoulder. You can do this. But Maddie shook her head. I'm not fearless. I'm barely holding it together. Grant's expression didn't change. Then let me teach you a truth, Madison. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite the fear. Maddie swallowed. Something warm flickered in her chest, something she hadn't felt in so long. Resolve. Evelyn opened her briefcase and set down documents. We're filing these at dawn. It will legally sever every connection between you and Brad. Chloe will lose her leverage. If you haven't 47'd. If you want to believe areas one of you haven't. Jordan added, and once that happens, Brad's statements will implicate Chloe. She'll be cornered. Grant nodded. Tonight we keep Maddie safe. Tomorrow we take everything from Chloe. Before Maddie could respond, the security alarm chimed softly, an alert tone, not an emergency. Marissa rushed back in. She's gone from the perimeter, but we found something else at the lake. She placed the item on the table. A piece of paper, soaked at the edges. Handwritten. Jordan picked it up carefully and read aloud. You can hide behind powerful men all you want, but at sunrise, you'll be alone. Maddie felt something shift inside her. The fear was still there, but anger rose behind it. She had spent years shrinking herself to keep the peace in her marriage, bending to Brad's moods, lowering her voice so she wouldn't trigger him. But Chloe? Chloe was pushing her into a place beyond fear. A place where Maddie had no choice but to fight. She lifted her chin. I'm done running. Grant smiled a rare, approving curve of his lips. Good, because she has no idea what's coming. Jordan nodded firmly. At sunrise, she won't be the hunter anymore. Maddie breathed deeply. And for the first time, she believed it. Sunrise crept slowly over the lake, washing the Grant estate in pale gold. Maddie stood near the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the first light ripple across the water. She hadn't slept, not with Chloe out there somewhere, not with Brad unraveling in a police station, not with her entire life circling a drain she never created. But something inside her had shifted. Fear no longer pinned her in place. It fueled her. Jordan entered quietly, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. You didn't sleep, he said softly. I couldn't, Maddie admitted. He handed her a mug. The warmth steadied her trembling fingers. Today's the day everything starts to change. If you know there's no... Maddie took a slow sip. I'm ready for it to change. Jordan studied her face for a moment. You're stronger than you think. Before she could answer, footsteps approached. Grant strode into the room, already dressed, already focused. Evelyn is prepping the filings as we speak, he said. Once they're submitted, Brad's legal team can't drag your name into his mess. Chloe will lose her leverage. Maddie exhaled shakily. And what if she tries something before then? Grant's expression hardened. Then she'll face consequences. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Marissa entered next, holding a tablet. We pulled satellite imaging from last night. Chloe parked on the road for 27 minutes, long enough to make contact, but not long enough to be reckless. Which means she's calculating, Grant said. Not entirely, Marissa added, swiping the screen. Look at this. I have weather in things. A zoomed-in still frame appeared. Chloe crouched near the lake, placing something at the edge. What is that? Maddie whispered. Marissa enlarged it. A gold bracelet, the one Brad gave Maddie on their 2nd anniversary. Maddie's breath caught. That was in my jewelry drawer. How did she? Grant's eyes narrowed. Because she's been in your home before. Jordan's jaw clenched. She's been stalking her longer than we realized. Maddie felt dizziness sweep over her. The idea of Chloe walking through her personal space, touching her things, planning, who knows what, it made her skin crawl. Marissa continued. She left the bracelet by the lake as a message. She wants Maddie to know she can reach her anywhere. Maddie closed her eyes. Why is she so obsessed with me? Evelyn appeared in the doorway, holding a folder thick with documents. Because you're the only variable she can't manipulate. She controlled Brad. She controlled information. She controlled public perception. But you, Evelyn pointed at her with the folder, you broke her plan the moment you refused to lie. Grant sat across from Maddie. And now, she's unraveling. That makes her dangerous, but also careless. Evelyn opened the folder and handed Maddie a document. This is the petition to legally separate your finances, assets, and liabilities from Brad's. Once filed, nothing he forged using your signature can fall back on you. Because Maddie's hands trembled as she held it. This protects me completely? Yes, Evelyn said. And once the police receive the USB drive, Chloe's threats become evidence against her, not leverage over you. Jordan touched Maddie's shoulder gently. You're doing the right thing. Maddie swallowed hard, then nodded. Where do I sign? Evelyn handed her a Mont Blanc pen. Maddie pressed the tip to the paper, but before she could sign, a loud chime echoed through the estate. Everyone froze. Marissa checked the tablet. Her eyes widened. She's back, Marissa said. The car just returned to the road. Grant stood instantly. How close? Close enough that she doesn't care if she's seen, Marissa answered. She wants attention. Evelyn stepped toward Maddie. Ignore her. Sign the papers. Maddie took a breath, steadying her trembling hand. Outside, Chloe's engine growled like a warning. Inside, Maddie signed her name. The line of ink felt like a blade cutting through years of fear. When she finished, Evelyn closed the file with finality. It's done. You're free from Brad. Jordan smiled with pride. Now we protect you from Chloe. But Marissa's voice broke the momentary relief. She's out of the car. Maddie's pulse spiked. She's walking toward the gate, Marissa continued. Grant stepped forward. Activate lockdown. Marissa nodded and spoke into her radio. But then she paused. Sir, she's holding something. Maddie's breath hitched. What? Marissa zoomed the feed. A phone. A video playing. Marissa's voice dropped. Sir, it's Maddie. Maddie staggered back. What? Grant narrowed his eyes. What kind of video? Jordan checked the screen, then froze. It's Maddie, he said. But not real Maddie. Evelyn leaned in, her face drained of color. Oh my God, it's a deepfake. Maddie's heart stopped. Chloe had created a fake video of her, and now she was going to release it. For several agonizing seconds, the room went silent, so silent Maddie could hear her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. A deepfake, a fake version of her. The idea alone made her knees weaken. Jordan steadied her with a hand on her back. Don't panic, we don't know what's in the video yet. But Maddie already felt sick. Chloe's done everything else. This could destroy me. Grant stepped toward the security monitor, jaw locked. Marissa, put the feed on the large screen. Yes, sir. A moment later, the living room monitor blinked to life. The image zoomed in on Chloe standing at the iron gates, hair wild, eyes gleaming, phone held high. She looked unhinged, triumphant, like a villain on the edge of victory. Marissa patched in the audio. Chloe's voice, chillingly calm, echoed through the room. Since Madison wants to play victim, Chloe said to the camera, I think the world deserves to see who she really is. End quote. End quote. I am Strock Sibilzin, number Susan. Maddie's entire body tensed. "Don't play it," she whispered. Grant shook his head. "We need to know." Chloe tapped her phone screen and held it up. The video began playing, though it wasn't Chloe speaking anymore. It was Maddie. Or rather, a digitally twisted version of her. The fake Maddie looked drunk, slurring, sitting in the back of a car. The fake Maddie laughed and said, "Brad hit him. So what? No one will believe a homeless guy anyway." Maddie gasped, her hand covering her mouth. No, that's not me. I've never said that. I would never." Jordan stepped closer, voice steady but fierce. "We know. Maddie, that video isn't real." Evelyn's face hardened with fury. "This is criminal. Deepfake, defamation, conspiracy, harassment." On the screen, Chloe tilted her head as if admiring her own handiwork. "Let's see what the public thinks once I upload this. Bye, sweetheart." The video ended. Chloe lowered the phone, smirking into the camera like a cat that had swallowed something sacred. Marissa swore under her breath. "She's going to release it." Grant didn't blink. "Not if we beat her to it." Maddie looked at him, breath shaky. "What do you mean?" Grant turned to Evelyn. "Call the district attorney. Tell them we have evidence of attempted extortion, falsified digital media, and stalking. Then call the NYPD cyber unit." Evelyn nodded, dialing immediately. Grant then looked at Marissa. "Get a team outside those gates. Chloe Hartman does not leave that road." Marissa vanished with military efficiency. Jordan took both of Maddie's hands in his. "Look at me. That video won't destroy you. We'll prove it's fake." "But what if she uploads it before anyone can stop her?" Maddie whispered. "What if the world believes it? I'm already drowning in rumors." Jordan held her gaze. "I believe you. Evelyn believes you. Grant believes you. And soon, the law will believe you too." Maddie tried to breathe, tried to stay grounded, but panic battled with humiliation. To see her own face, her voice twisted into something cruel and heartless, it was a violation like nothing she'd ever imagined. Evelyn lowered her phone. "The DA is sending investigators. They're fast-tracking everything. And the cyber team says once we have Chloe's device, they can trace the deepfake generator." "Good," Grant said. "Because something tells me she didn't just create one." Maddie's stomach lurched. "There are more?" Jordan squeezed her hands. "Don't spiral. We're here." But before the reassurance could settle, Marissa's voice crackled over the security speaker. "Mr. Grant, update. Chloe attempted to scale the gate." Maddie's blood turned ice. "What happened?" Grant demanded. "We detained her," Marissa replied. "She's screaming your name, Madison," repeating the same phrase. "Enter." Maddie closed her eyes, bracing herself. "What phrase?" Marissa answered bluntly. "If I'm going down, she's coming with me." Maddie felt the room tilt again. Evelyn whispered, "This is it. She's spiraling. This is the moment she makes her biggest mistake." Jordan nodded grimly. "And the moment we end this." Grant stepped closer to Maddie, his voice calm but full of steel. "Madison, the tide just turned." Maddie swallowed hard, feeling the shift inside her too. Fear was still there, but something stronger was rising. Because Chloe hadn't expected Maddie to fight back. And Maddie was done being afraid. Maddie's pulse thundered in her ears as Marissa's voice echoed through the speaker. Chloe had finally crossed the line, scaling gates, waving deepfakes, screaming threats. The mask was gone. The polished PR girl Brad once flaunted at events had evaporated, leaving behind something feral, erratic, and frighteningly determined. Grant adjusted his cufflinks with steady precision, but behind his calm exterior, a storm brewed. "Bring her inside," he told Marissa. "Not here. Take her to the security annex." "Yes, sir." Jordan turned to Maddie. "You don't have to see her." But Maddie shook her head. "I do. I need to understand why she's doing this." "Why me?" Evelyn stepped forward, her voice low and firm. "You don't owe her anything, but if you want closure, I'll stand beside you." Grant nodded. "So will I." End quote. Minutes later, Marissa returned. She's restrained. Still screaming, but she's contained. Contained. The word alone eased some of the tension crushing Maddie's chest. Grant gestured. "Let's end this." They followed Marissa down a long hallway to the annex, a private security wing beneath the estate. Cameras lined the ceiling, and reinforced glass walled the holding room. Inside, Chloe Hartman sat cuffed to a metal chair, mascara streaking her cheeks, hair a tangled mess. Her phone lay on the table, battery removed. She looked nothing like the poised woman who used to cling to Brad's arm. She looked like a storm splitting apart. The moment she saw Maddie, she lunged forward, the chains rattling violently. "You," Chloe hissed, "you ruined everything." Maddie stiffened, but remained standing. Jordan stepped protectively closer, but Maddie lifted a hand. "No. Let her speak." Chloe let out a sharp, broken laugh. "Of course you'd show up, perfect Madison. Sweet Madison. Poor little nurse with her sad eyes and pathetic marriage." Maddie forced her voice steady. "Why are you doing this?" "Why?" Chloe snapped. "Because you weren't supposed to exist. Brad promised me everything. Money, power, the company, the future. He said you were nothing. A tired little wife who'd fade quietly." Maddie swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything to you." "Exactly," Chloe spat. "You didn't fight. You didn't argue. You didn't even hate me." Her voice broke. "And he still looked at you like you were the thing in his way." Grant's expression darkened. "So you created deepfakes? Threatened her? Tried to destroy her career?" Chloe's eyes snapped toward him. "You don't understand. Brad lied to me. He used me. And she pointed at Maddie with a shaking, cuffed hand. "She had the one thing I never could get from him." Maddie's voice softened. "What thing?" Chloe's lip quivered. "His guilt." The room fell silent. "He never cared about me," Chloe whispered. "Not once. But he feared what you knew. He feared you leaving him. He feared you telling the truth." Maddie hadn't expected that. She'd expected hatred, jealousy, rage, but not this, a wounded confession from someone who'd built her entire identity on borrowed power. Chloe laughed again. Hollow. "So I decided if he was going down, you were coming with him. You don't get to walk away clean." Evelyn stepped forward, voice ice cold. "You made a deep fake of an innocent woman. You trespassed. You threatened. You stalked. You manipulated a police investigation." Chloe's smile twisted. "Try proving it." "Gladly," Evelyn replied. Marissa opened a file and pressed a button on a small device. The screen mounted to the wall, flickered, and played back audio from Chloe's own phone, recorded when she scaled the gate. Her own voice filled the room. "If I'm going down, she's coming with me. I'll destroy her. I swear I'll." Chloe froze. Her face drained of color. Grant spoke calmly. "Our security captured every word. Law enforcement is already on the way." "No," Chloe whispered, panic flooding her expression. "No, you can't." Maddie stepped closer to the glass, not in triumph, but in resolve. "You tried to ruin my life," she said quietly, "but you only destroyed yourself." Chloe shook her head, tears spilling. "Please, don't let them arrest me." But Maddie did not answer. She had nothing left to give this woman. Within minutes, sirens approached the estate. Officers entered, read Chloe her rights, and escorted her out in cuffs. As they led her away, Chloe screamed Maddie's name, a desperate, fading wail swallowed by the flashing lights. Maddie closed her eyes, inhaling a long, shaking breath. Jordan's hand found her shoulder. "It's over," he whispered. Grant nodded firmly. "She won't hurt you again." Maddie let out a breath she'd been holding for months. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt safe. The estate felt different after Chloe was taken away. The tension that had gripped every hallway, every shadow, every breath it loosened. The sun outside had finally risen fully, casting warm light across the polished floors as if the universe itself was exhaling with Maddie. She stood near the large windows overlooking the lake, arms folded loosely, watching the water ease into gentle ripples. The bracelet Chloe had stolen, her anniversary bracelet, sat on the table beside her. Marissa had retrieved it from the lakeside earlier that morning. It didn't feel like a symbol of love anymore. It felt like a symbol of survival. Jordan entered quietly, hands in his pockets, eyes soft as they landed on her. "The DA just called," he said. "Chloe's being charged with digital impersonation, extortion, harassment, breaking and entering, cyber fraud, and that's just the beginning." "Aster, Esaval." Maddie exhaled, her shoulders dropping. "Good." Jordan stepped beside her, gaze following hers out the window. "How do you feel?" She took a moment to answer. Not because she didn't know, because she finally felt safe enough to admit it. "Tired," she said softly. "Lighter. Sad, but lighter." Jordan nodded. "Trauma doesn't vanish overnight, but you're not alone in any of this." Maddie looked at him. Jordan had been steady through the chaos, never pushing, never overstepping, always exactly where she needed him, even when she didn't know she needed him. "Thank you," she murmured. "For what?" "For staying, for fighting with me, for fighting for me." He smiled a small, warm smile that eased something deep inside her. "I'd do it again." Before she could respond, Evelyn entered the room, holding a thick folder and wearing a proud smile. "Good news," Evelyn said. "The legal separation has been officially filed and time-stamped. You're no longer financially or legally tied to Brad. Anything he did is his burden alone now." Maddie felt her breath catch. "So, it's really over?" Evelyn nodded. "It's over." Jordan squeezed Maddie's shoulder gently. "You're free." Free. The word felt unreal. She had spent years feeling trapped by Brad's manipulation, by his lies, by her own guilt over a marriage she couldn't fix. She had convinced herself she was failing him, failing them, failing herself. But she hadn't failed. He had. Grant entered next, sleeves rolled up, carrying a tablet. "More updates," he announced. The police reviewed the USB drive. Brad's confessions are clear. Between the fraud evidence and the hit-and-run charges, he won't see daylight for a long time. Maddie sank slowly into a chair. "I never wanted him to go to prison." Evelyn raised a brow. "He earned it." Maddie nodded. "I know. I wish he had been the man I thought he was." Grant placed the tablet on the table. "Sometimes we fall in love with potential, but potential is just a promise. Character is what matters." Maddie looked up at him, grateful. "Thank you for everything you've done." Grant gave her a rare, soft smile. "You saved my life when you treated me in the ER. I'm only returning the favor." A lump formed in her throat. "I never expected anything back." "And 42. And that," Grant said, "is exactly why you deserved it." Marissa appeared at the doorway. "The estate is secure. You're safe to move freely." Safe. Another word she wasn't used to. Evelyn closed the folder decisively. "So, Madison Clark, what will you do now?" Maddie turned toward the window again. For the first time in years, the future didn't look terrifying. It looked open, wide, possible. "I think," she said slowly, "I want to build something of my own, something good, something that lasts." Jordan smiled. "You will." "And maybe," she added, glancing at him with a shy warmth, "for the first time, I won't have to build it alone." Jordan's breath caught just slightly, but he didn't look away. Grant clasped his hands behind his back. "Whatever you choose, Madison, you're standing on your own feet now. And no one, Brad, Chloe, or anyone else, will ever knock you down again." Maddie inhaled deeply, letting the sunlight wash over her face. For the first time, her life wasn't falling apart. It was beginning. 2 weeks later, Maddie stood on the balcony of her new apartment in Brooklyn Heights, a warm, sunlit space overlooking the East River. No marble floors, no cold penthouse silence, no looming shadows, just soft morning air, the distant hum of the city, and the gentle rhythm of a life she was finally beginning to reclaim. A small moving box lay open beside her, filled with pieces of her old life scrubs from the hospital, a framed photo of her mother, a few medical textbooks, and the bracelet Chloe had stolen. Maddie picked it up, turning it over in her palm. It didn't hurt to look at it anymore. It reminded her of what she had survived. A knock sounded at the door. Jordan stepped inside, carrying a bag of takeout and 2 coffees. "Breakfast," he announced. "From the place you like on Montague Street. And before you ask, yes, I remembered to get extra syrup." Maddie smiled, warmth blooming behind her ribs. "You're spoiling me." He set the bag down. "I'm trying to make sure you actually eat something that isn't anxiety." She laughed softly. "I think I'm past the anxiety stage." He stepped closer, studying her with gentle pride. "You look different. Lighter." "I feel different," she admitted. "Free." Jordan reached for her hand, but paused, giving her the choice. Maddie closed the distance, wrapping her fingers around his. "Evelyn called this morning," she said. "The DA is officially charging Chloe with everything. And Brad, he admitted the hit and run to avoid additional fraud charges." Jordan nodded. "He won't be hurting anyone again." Maddie exhaled. "I never wanted revenge. I just wanted truth. And you got it." For a moment, they stood quietly, hands intertwined, sunlight warming their faces. Maddie felt something in her chest, settle the kind of peace she once believed she'd never feel again. After breakfast, they walked through the apartment, unpacking boxes together. Jordan hung her framed photo on the hallway wall. Maddie arranged her scrubs neatly in the bedroom dresser. It felt symbolic, putting her life back where it belonged, piece by piece. Grant called mid-morning to check on her, his voice gruff but affectionate. "The foundation we discussed is ready," he said. "When you're ready, we'll build it in your name." A foundation in her name, to help victims of emotional abuse and financial manipulation. Something she'd wished she had when she felt alone. "Thank you," Maddie said, eyes warming. "Really. You earned it," Grant replied. "Now go live your life." When the call ended, Jordan leaned in the doorway, watching her. "You're becoming someone incredible, Maddie." She blushed. "I'm just trying not to fall apart." They were. "You did fall apart," he said gently, "but you built yourself again, stronger." There was a softness in his eyes she'd never seen from him, not just affection, but admiration. "Maddie," he began, stepping closer, voice steady. "I know you're healing. I know it's soon. I don't want to rush anything, but I need you to know something." She looked up at him, heart thudding. "I've cared about you for a long time, longer than I should have. And now that you're free, I want the chance to love you the way you deserve." Her breath caught, but not in fear, in recognition. She felt it too, had felt it for months, buried under chaos. Jordan brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "If you're not ready, I'll wait." Maddie took his hand and placed it over her heart. "I am ready," she whispered. "For the first time, I'm ready." End quote. Jordan's expression softened, and he leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead, a promise, not a claim. Later that afternoon, they walked outside together. The sky was clear, the river shimmering, the world open ahead of them. Maddie breathed deeply, letting the warmth settle inside her. Her marriage had ended in betrayal. Her life had nearly been torn apart. But standing beside Jordan, sunlight on her skin, she finally understood something. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of a better one. A life built on truth, strength, and a love she finally deserved. And just like that, our story comes to an end. But you, yes, you, my wonderful friend who's still here with me, must be feeling something right now. If you've stayed until this moment, it means the journey touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. So, let's take a breath together and look at what this story is really telling us. Maddie's journey reminds us that healing doesn't come from running, it comes from choosing yourself, even when it hurts. Stoic philosophy has a beautiful line from Marcus Aurelius: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Maddie didn't break because of the obstacles, she became stronger because of them. And in our own lives, betrayal, disappointment, or heartbreak doesn't define us, our response does. Sometimes, life forces us to let go of the people we once loved, so we can become the person we were always meant to be. And just like Maddie, we all deserve safety, truth, and a second chance at love, whatever that looks like for each of us. If this touched you, if you saw even a small part of your own story in hers, please like this video, share it with someone who needs the reminder, and subscribe to our channel. We're building a place where stories heal and where you are never alone.